So just like we got in 2008 with Barack Obama, with Mitt Romney, we get a lot of firsts. He's the first Mormon to run for the White House on a major party ticket. He's the first venture capitalist and richest man to run, one of the richest men to run for president on a major party ticket ever. And he's likely the first president with millions stashed in offshore bank accounts. And during a time when there's a lot of anger at the 1%, at America's corporate class, Mitt Romney's path to the gates of the White House is, well, surprising, at least to the less cynical among us. But here it is, a look back at how Romney has gotten here.
I believe in America, and I'm running for president of the United States. Thank you.
Bain Capital is an investment partnership which was formed to invest in startup companies and ongoing companies, then to take an active hand in managing them, and hopefully 5 to 8 years later to harvest them at a significant profit.
Staples, I think, is a good example of where Bain & Company can support the management of an excellent company.
When Mitt Romney was CEO of Bain Capital in the 90s, Bain invested in a series of companies, including call centers and manufacturers that expanded overseas, sometimes at the expense of American workers.
In February of 1999, I left Bain Capital and left all management authority and responsibility for the firm. I had no ongoing activity or involvement in the affairs of Bain Capital.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to this edition of Town Talk. I'm Paul Knight, and I'll be your guest for the next 60 minutes or so as we continue to try and find out what's really going on in our community, and in fact, tonight, what's really going on in our state. And to help me with that quest is the probable Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, Mr. Mitt Romney. Excuse me, Mitt.
That's all right.
Welcome to the show, Mitt.
Thank you. Good to be here, Paul.
Let me introduce the candidates. Edward Kennedy, the Democratic candidate, has served in the Senate since 1962. Mitt Romney, the Republican candidate, has served as Chief Executive Officer of Bain Capital, a venture capital firm.
The people in Massachusetts have been watching for 32 years Senator Kennedy. They appreciate what he's done, but they recognize that our world has changed and that the answers of the 1960s aren't working anymore.
Conservatives had a fantasy that in this election they could take Ted Kennedy out of the Senate.
Just a few minutes ago, our phone rang. Mitt Romney called me to congratulate me on being re-elected to the United States Senate.
I have to admit, we haven't gotten off to a great start, have we? In terms of building the power of the positive image of our brand in Utah and in Salt Lake City, and to a certain extent even America, by virtue of the scandal that was associated with the winning of the bid in Salt Lake City. We have some work to do there.
After 9/11, the way we looked at these events changed drastically. More so than any Olympic Games, the world was really watching this one. How was the United States going to respond?
When I first came here and saw how bad the budget deficit was, I was concerned that we might not be able to carry them off, that we might just not have the funds to put on a real Olympics. And then following September 11th, I was absolutely committed that we would go forward. The games meant more than ever.
I want to note, however, that lest there be any doubt, I'm in. The bumper stickers have been printed. The website is going up tomorrow morning. The campaign papers are filed today.
Mitt Romney is a real leader, and he would make a great governor.
I think the old, standby definitions of who votes for which party have been blown away in this campaign. I think people recognize that I'm not a partisan Republican, that I'm someone who is moderate, and that my views are progressive.
His Excellency, the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mitt Romney.
I think it's because of what this bill can lead to. Every citizen with affordable, comprehensive health insurance. Small businesses able to conveniently buy insurance for their employees at a cost that's competitive with big businesses.
I'm Mitt Romney. I believe in America, and I'm running for president of the United States.
Thank you, New Hampshire. Tonight we made history. And, of course, the people of South Carolina who've helped this campaign, I owe you so very much. Thank you for this great night tonight.
And to the people all over Florida, thank you tonight for this great victory. A competitive primary does not divide us, it prepares us, and we will win. Mr. Chairman and delegates, I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
As we move forward in this campaign and on to help lead the nation to better days, it's an honor to announce my running mate and the next Vice President of the United States, Paul Ryan.
I also believe the administration was wrong to stand by a statement sympathizing with those who had breached our embassy in Egypt, instead of condemning their actions. There are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it.
I'll get America and North America energy independent. I'll do it by more drilling, more permits and licenses. We're going to bring that pipeline in from Canada. How in the world the president said no to that pipeline, I will never know. I want to bring the rates down. I want to simplify the tax code, and I want to get middle-income taxpayers to have lower taxes.
We need you to vote and vote early. We need you to get your friends to vote. We need you to find people who voted for Barack Obama and change their mind. We need to take America back. I need Ohio. Ohio's going to set the course of the nation. We're going to win. We're going to make America, as it's always been, the shining city on a hill. Thank you so very much. God bless you. God bless Ohio. And God bless the United States of America.
So there you have it, a man who is deeply religious, wealthy beyond many of our wildest dreams, with a strong record in business. So does Mitt Romney's resume qualify him to be the 45th president of these United States? For more, senior online editor of the Daily Caller, Vince Cognez, and Brian Darling from the Heritage Foundation join us now. So let's start off with this question. There's been a lot of things coming out of the Democratic campaign. They've basically painted Mitt Romney as somebody that is just completely out of touch, that flip-flops a lot. So I want to go beyond the myth and talk about the man, what he stands for, and what he offers this nation. I'll start with you, Vince.
Well, you know, looking at Mitt Romney, and I think actually that video package that you put together is maybe, it may not have be meant this way, but it's maybe one of the fairest video packages I think that will be produced about Romney.
Of course it was meant that way.
Yeah, no, probably not. But I do believe that it gets close to it because it does show the ups and downs of what Romney's campaign has been, the very attacks that the left has had on him, and sort of who he is as a person. I mean, I think most conservatives who are watching this are probably going to say, well, I'm not offended by his wealth. I'm not offended by the things he's done to get to where he is, being involved in venture capital. And if you look at Mitt Romney, the guy, he's sort of a Boy Scout, right? The Obamas had to try and make the politics of attacking Mitt Romney about how he divides the nation, how people won't like him because he won't serve their interests. But beyond that, he doesn't have the record that Obama can go after to say he's not a good person. Because if you look back, I mean, Romney has plenty of examples in his past, and he's used his wealth, as a matter of fact, to show where he's gone out of his way to, for instance, to save a coworker's daughter who was missing. I mean, there's so many incidents where he's done very good things with the blessings that he's had in his life. So I think that's impressive.
I don't think we are questioning whether he's not a good person. I think that's a good point. I mean, I don't know him personally, but he seems to be subscribing to an ideology that's caused a lot of damage over the last 8 years before the president started, and that's been kind of continued through a lot of the president's policies. Brian, how is Mitt Romney really any, and this is a question he was asked in the debate, how is he any different than Bush when it comes to his economic and foreign affairs policies?
Well, clearly he has a similar view, very similar to George H.W. Bush.
So will we get similar results?
I don't know. I mean, he definitely has different views, but similar. I mean, Ronald Reagan, pro-life conservative, hawk on foreign policy. You see a similarity with Republican presidents, and Mitt Romney, if he were to win, would probably be similarly hawkish on foreign policy. He's talked about shoring up defense, maybe spending 4% of GDP on defense. And he's somebody who holds the social values that we've seen in Republican presidents.
Is that what a war-weary nation needs, more defense spending?
Well, they may be war-weary after President Obama. I mean, President Obama increased troop levels in Afghanistan. He's somebody who's used drones in an unprecedented level, and he's got a kill list of American terrorists that he wants to go after.
Which you're pretending to criticize.
Well, I mean, Obama did adopt some of the policies of the Bush administration, which I think is underreported.
It is underreported, and another thing that is a little bit underreported is the fact that we've seen, or it is reported, but it was in the beginning, really, of the presidential primaries. Mitt Romney does change his position quite often, and whether that is really because it's a change of heart or because it's a change to act of self-preservation, you know, we've seen him do that before. So what's to say that he doesn't promise all these wonderful things, and then once he gets into the White House, change his mind again because, hey, he has that seat. That's all.
Well, let me start with with what you're dealing with. You have two candidates, one of which is the President of the United States and did make a litany of promises that you've talked about at length on this network and we've talked about before that never came to fruition. So if you're comparing promises, Obama's in a position where he hasn't fulfilled much of what he intended to do, including in a major way what Romney's attacked, which is the deficit. Obama promised to halve the deficit by the end of this first term, and it's not done. So that's very plain and clear. The other side is this question of Romney, how he's changed throughout his political career. Show me any politician of any veteran strength that hasn't changed positions over the length of his career, and I'll be impressed. And in fact, that guy maybe should be president of the United States now. The other is that, look, who knows what's going to happen? The truth is that the American public has to make that decision. But when a candidate goes forward and says, this is what I'm going to do, the voters expected to say, this is what I can look at this and say, look, do I believe him or not? And if they do, they should go to the polls and vote for Romney. And that's what's happening today.
And we'll see if they do. Brian, we have just a minute left. In that intro clip about Mitt Romney, how he got here, there's a clip of him talking about Bain Capital and how they harvest businesses for profit.
Right.
He made money outsourcing American jobs. Does that qualify him to be president? Is there something wrong with outsourcing jobs, one? And does that sort of behavior qualify someone to be president?
I don't think there's anything wrong with being a businessman and maximizing profits for your investors. And look at Mitt Romney, too. It's kind of an interesting life history. He's kind of completing the dreams of his father, who ran for president twice. Mom ran for Senate. He comes from a very political family, and yes, he may have come from more liberal, progressive lines, and maybe he shifted a little bit, but we'll see what happens. I mean, we don't know who's going to win. We have no idea who's going to win, but it'll be interesting to see if he gets in the White House, if he follows through with his promises.
And what we do know right now is that we are at quite a fork in the road when it comes to this country and which way we want to take it. Right now, it's up to the voters to be able to take it in that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and thank you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to have to leave the conversation there. That was senior online editor for the Daily Caller, Vince Colonnese. I'm going to keep getting that one wrong. And
like
Brian
hollandaise.
Darling.
Yes,
like mayonnaise.
Thank you.
And Brian Darling from the Heritage Foundation. And we're going to take a quick break, but stick around. It's not only President Obama and Mitt Romney that are duking it out today. Some of our Congress members are as well. So we're going to highlight some of those key races when we return.